Hello everyone, welcome to one more session of Science with me. Children, today we are beginning a new chapter in science, that is Earth, Sun, and Moon. So, we are talking about the solar system. So, children, you know this solar system you have already studied in class 4 as well as in class 3rd. So, children, the solar system is like a very big family. It consists of the sun, moon, planets, etc. And the planets move around the sun. So, the sun, the eight planets, the moon, and the dwarf planets form the solar system. The eight planets that revolve around the sun in the order of the increasing distance from the sun are Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and the Neptune. Okay, so sun, children, the sun is a huge ball of fire that gives us heat and light, and it is the center of a solar system. Now, Mercury is the closest planet to the Sun and also the smallest planet in the solar system. Venus is the second planet in the solar system, and it is the hottest planet of all. Okay. Now, Earth is the third planet in the solar system. It is also called the blue planet because almost 70% of its surface is covered with the water. It appears blue when seen from the space. It is only planet where life is known to exist. The Mars is the fourth planet. It is also called the red planet because the soil and rock on these planets are red. And children, it's very important thing. It is only planet that is the similar to the Earth, and scientists believe that it is the only planet beside the Earth where life may exist. Okay. Now, the Jupiter is the fifth planet and it is the largest planet in the solar system. And the Jupiter spins very fast and pulling the clouds around it in. Uh, you know, uh, when this Jupiter spins very fast and it pulls the the clouds surrounding it form this stripe pattern. That is why we see a stripe pattern on the Jupiter when we look carefully. Now, the Saturn, it is known as the planet with a ring because it appears to have several rings around its middle. And the Uranus and the Neptune, they are very far from the Sun. And together with the Jupiter and Saturn, they are called the outer planets. So, the inner planet and the outer planet. Inner planets are, the Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Outer planets are Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Okay, so children, till July 2006, it was accepted that the Sun has a family of nine planets. However, now, okay, when in August 24, 2006, the International Astronomical Union they refined a planet that our solar system now has only eight planets. Okay, now Pluto was earlier a planet, is now called a dwarf planet, right? So these eight planets and the dwarf planets move around the sun in the fixed path that is called the orbit. Now there are only eight planets in the solar system. Okay, so children, now let us learn more about our planet Earth. Okay, where we live. So the Earth is a different from all other planets in the solar system, right? It has water, air, and soil, and there is a blanket of air around the Earth called the atmosphere, which protects it from the harmful ultraviolet rays of the sun, right? So the surface of the Earth has the various features such as the oceans, river, mountains, and valleys. But do you know what the inside of the Earth looks like? So now we are going to learn the internal structure of the Earth. Look at the diagram. So children know Earth is not a uniform solid sphere. It consists of the different layers. So these layers are called the crust, mantle, and core. Now our Earth divided into three layers. So the outermost layer of the Earth is crust, right? And the continent and oceans lies on this layer on the crust. Okay, so it is a thickness varies from and 5 kilometer under the oceans floor to 70 kilometer under the continents, and it is made up of rocks. Okay, and it contains, this crust contains everything that is essential for the life, right? Now we're talking about the second layer, that is the mantle, and it is a middle layer of or layer below the crust. Thickness of the mantle is 29,000 kilometer thick. Okay, 2,900 kilometer thickness, and the upper part is made up of solid rocks, whereas the lower part consists of molten rocks. And it is from here the molten magma comes out when a volcano erupts. It contains a lot of iron and magnesium. Now the last one is the core, and it is the innermost layer, forming the center of the core, and it is very hot. Okay, so now the outer core contains iron and nickel in a molten state. Some sulfur is also present here. So the inner core is a solid ball, almost entirely it is made up of iron. So this was a layer of the earth. Okay, now children, we are talking about the sun. So the sun is the star that is closest to the earth. Okay, and about 150 million kilometer away. It is a huge ball of hot burning gases. So the sun has a thin layer of atmosphere called the corona. It is in this corona that sometimes we see during the solar eclipse. Okay, and the sun is so big that a million of Earth could fit into it. But it's still considered the small. The sun still considered small because the stars are usually much larger. In fact, the sun is called the dwarf star. And children, the sun is made up of mainly hydrogen and a gas called helium. And at the center of the sun, also known as, it is known as the core. And children, hydrogen changes into helium here only. So this process release a large amount of heat and light energy. So together that is called the solar energy. Okay, and it is this light and heat that we receive on the earth. So the solar energy is the most important source of energy for man, right? Okay, now we are talking about the moon. So children, you all know very well that moon does not have an atmosphere. So it does not produce its own heat and light. It reflects the light of the sun. So the moon is only the natural satellite of the earth. The moon is also spherical like the sun and the planets. So the moon is made up of rocks and and has no air on it. So the moon is the natural satellite of the earth, and its distance from the earth is about 3,84,400 kilometers. The moon does not have any light of its own. So the moonlight we see is reflected sunlight. Okay. Now the surface of the moon, children, it's very dry and dusty, and it is covered with the craters, mountains, and valleys. So the craters are formed when solid bodies called meteorites crashes into the moon's surface. So the oldest craters were formed billions of years ago. Now there is no air or water on the moon. So as such, no sound can be heard. Since children, the sounds need a medium to travel. So the moon also has a gravity with which it pulls all objects toward its center. So the gravity of moon is about one sixth the gravity of the earth. Right? So children, now we are talking about the phases of the moon. So when the moon revolves around the earth, the shape appears no change day by day. Okay, so it appears to change day by day. So the changing shapes of the moon is called the phases of the moon. So the moon is called the earth satellite, and it revolves around the earth, that you know very well, and it has no light of its own. It gets light from the sun. So, and children, the moon takes about 28 days to go around the earth, and it appears to change shape during that time. So the different shapes of the moon are called the phases of the moon. So the new moon, day one. So now when the moon is between the sun and the earth, so the side that faces the earth does not get any sunlight. So it is completely dark. So this is the new moon. Now after then, the crescent one. So after 3 or 25 days, we can see, after 3 days we can see a small part of the moon. So this is the crescent moon. Now after 7 days, we can see the half of the moon. So this stage is called the half moon. Now after 10 days, we can see more than half of the moon. So this is called the gibbous moon. Now after 14 days, the moon reaches the opposite side of the earth. So what now, what we then see is the full moon. Now there are about 30 days between one full moon and the next full moon, right? So these are the different phases of the moon, right? Now we are going to talk about the eclipses. So children, the to be eclipse means to be hidden. Sometimes what happens, the sun, moon, and the stars, and sometimes what happens, the sun, moon, and the earth come, into a position as though they are all in a straight line. At that time, the earth comes between the moon and the sun, and at other time what happened, the moon comes between the sun and the earth. At such time the celestial bodies in the middle, they cast a shadow which partially or wholly wholly hides to other celestial bodies from the sun. So this is called an eclipse. Okay, so now this is the talking about the solar eclipse. Now in solar eclipse what happened, now the when the moon comes between the earth and the sun, it blocks some part of the sun and it creates a shadow. The sun looks as though it has a disk in front of it that creates a shadow. So, this is called the solar eclipse. Solar eclipse may be partial or total. During a partial solar eclipse, a part of the sun can be seen. Now, during a total solar eclipse, the sun cannot be seen at all. So the moon shadows also has two parts. One is the umbra and the second one is the penumbra. So the region on the earth where umbra falls will have a total solar eclipse. The region where the penumbra falls will have a partial solar eclipse. So children, the solar eclipses are of very short duration or a few minutes or so. Okay. Now the second about the we are talking about the lunar eclipse. Now in lunar eclipse, when the earth here what will happen? The earth comes between the sun and the moon. Now it blocks a lot of the sunlight from reaching the moon and creates a shadow. So this is called an eclipse of the moon or the lunar eclipse. Now the earth's shadow has two parts here also. One part, the earth totally blocks the sunlight, that is the umbra, and the other where the earth blocks a part of the sunlight, that is the penumbra. Okay, so lunar eclipse may be partial or total. During a partial lunar eclipse, only a part of the moon can be seen. Now, during the total lunar eclipse, the moon cannot be seen at all. Okay, so children, we have completed this chapter. Okay, bye bye to everyone. We'll meet up with a new video again.